Welcome to week 2 of Mission Improbable for the NFL season. I'm Lewis Glover from Fantasy Football Down Under and the Vault Studio, and I am joined for the first time ever, a momentous occasion, by not one, but two of the lovely gentlemen from Sideline Spice. We've got Ryan and Luca here. Boys, how are we?
Good, thank you, as always.
Yeah, doing well.
Excellent. That's good. That's good to hear. And it is a nice, surprise to have both of you here. It's like herding cats trying to get the two of you.
We're never in the same room. We're never in the same room at once. So you didn't know we weren't the same person until right now.
I thought,
how could we?
A series of burner accounts.
Yeah, how could we possibly coordinate with all Luca's gym time? Anyway,
and all Ryan's numerous social activities.
These two are two very busy gentlemen, and as such, we should move on with the show. But before we get onto our picks for week 2, we do have to raise our hand, a bit of a mea culpa here, and say we done fucked up, and we let you down the garden path in week 1. So for that, we apologise. Ryan, you can bare your soul first.
Jameis Winston, you've let me down for the last time. You're out. You're done. I'm not backing you again this season. You had your shot and you lost it. Bring back Fitzpatrick. That's all I'm going to say.
Now, I agree. He let us down tremendously. I will say, though, my guy, Chris Godwin, redeemed me on Thursday night, coming in with all of my picks for the Thursday night football game. But unfortunately, the one we care about for the purposes of this show, I gave you the D.D. Westbrook over. And unfortunately, despite falling into the end zone, he only managed 37 or so yards. Couldn't get to the it was low 50s. I forget the line, but he couldn't get there. I am going to give myself a mulligan on that one, though, considering his starting quarterback broke his collarbone in the first or second quarter. I forget. It was early in the morning. But once that happened, I knew my day was done. So,
first of all, the disrespect to Gardner Minshew.
Has a quarterback ever been so hyped without doing anything other than Gardner Minshew? Like, I know Baker came in with a lot of...
Tim Tebow was pretty useless. Nah, he did a lot in college. I get it.
When you get off the plane, looking like Aaron Rodgers, dressing like Cam Newton, people are going to be backing you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Fitzpatrick on steroids, basically.
It's awesome. I'm here for it.
They even both have a high Wonderlic. But anyway, can I say that I was a perfect 0 from 0 last week? Didn't mess up. Didn't let anybody down with their money. 0 picks wrong. So, you guys are on your own there. I'm perfect for the season.
Perfect for the season. I like it. All right. Yeah. So with that being said, let's move on to week 2, and hopefully we can steer the ship in the right direction and get on track with some W's for the season. Ryan, what you got?
I've got another double because I'm greedy like that, and I see one, and then I see another from the same player, and I like them both, and I just can't help but get excited. This one has a double sort of appeal to me because I did happen to snag this guy for my fantasy team off waivers, hoping that he can continue his week 1 start to the season for the rest of the year, and that player is the Bills wide receiver John Brown. I've gone for his yards and his receptions. So the yards line is 53.5 for $1.88 at Sportsbet, and the receptions number is arguably more appealing to me, and that's 3.5. And I've gone the over for $2.07 also at Sportsbet. Just a bit of explanation. Pro Football Focus, for those that know, have sort of eyeballed this as the second best matchup between a wide receiver and a defensive back of the week. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's early. There's not a lot of data on it, but still Pro Football Focus has been sort of doing this for a long time now and is very well respected within the industry in terms of these statistical analysis. So I believe it. But the game itself last week, Brown, just sort of to go over how he went last week, Brown racked up 7 receptions for 123 yards on 10 targets. The 10 targets was 16th in the league amongst wide receivers. The 7 receptions was 11th. He had the 8th highest yards and the 13th highest air yards of any wide receiver. He accounted for 27% of the team's targets. and just under 40% of their total air yards. So when you then look at the matchup between him and his 4.3 speed going up against the Giants' best sort of cornerback in Janoris Jenkins at just under 4.5, and who also gave up 264 yards last week to Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. Yes, Prescott is a better quarterback than Allen now, but he also has more targets to share his targets amongst. So I think for me, in this team, against this team, in this situation, with Josh Allen really sort of zoning in on sort of the most competent receiver he's had since he's been in the league in John Brown, I think over 53.5 yards is good. And I think over 3.5 receptions, I wouldn't be surprised if he had over that by halftime.
Yeah, I love that call. I love both of those. Another thing for John Brown is he ran 40% of his snaps from the slot as well. So some of the easier throws in the middle of the field for Josh Allen to make. But just the way those two pair up together, right? The deep ability of John Brown. He earns air yards everywhere he plays. Josh Allen, one of the few things he does well as an NFL quarterback is to hit the deep ball. And as you mentioned, it's just got a perfect matchup there with going up against Janoris Jenkins, who isn't the most fleet of foot. So love both of those calls. Love John Brown in daily fantasy, and Josh Allen, the matchup he's got this week, he's like a top 3 quarterback play for me in fantasy as well.
Yeah, definitely agree with that also.
I like the bet. I think the only risk, I think that the catch is more of a risk than the yards, because I think that there's a chance that game script could go in favor of the Bills and they might just want to pound the rock. But I think yards is pretty safe because Brown doesn't need many receptions to do his damage as an elite deep threat. He could be what I've seen many lines back over the years when he played for Arizona and for Baltimore, like 3 receptions for like 103 yards, kind of thing. So, I see him clearing the over on the yards easily. With a favourable game script, he should clear the receptions as well. But of the two, that's the one that makes me more nervous. But I think that's reflected in the odds as well.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I also thought the yards were the safer, but the receptions is paying over even. So you're looking at over $2 for a reception for what is supposed to be a coin flip sort of number that the bookies sort of eyeballed. So you'll take that over even any day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. And, from one former Arizona Cardinal to a current and probable lifelong Arizona Cardinal, my guy this week, the man who keeps beating Father Time, it's Larry Fitzgerald. He looked absolutely phenomenal in week 1. He looked like he'd, been hanging out with Tom Brady at the Fountain of Youth all off season, because both of those guys looked phenomenal in week 1. But Larry Fitzgerald was just doing everything, and he didn't come off the field. And when I say he didn't come off the field, he played 100% of the snaps. 100% of the snaps in a Cliff Kingsbury offense that ran 59 pass plays in the game. That was first in the NFL. He ran 82% of those routes from the slot. This is just an absolute dream scenario for what you want if you have Larry Fitzgerald. He ran on 94% of the dropbacks for Kyler Murray, so he was involved, and he had 13 targets as well. And right now, his matchup, his line, on Sportsbet is set at 54.5 yards, paying $1.88. And I love that, because even though on paper you think the Baltimore Ravens, you go, well, that's a pretty tough matchup. They're a good defense. That's true, but it's actually a good matchup for slot receivers. In 2018, over 30% of the fantasy points that Baltimore gave up were to slot receivers. That's how teams attack them. That's how their defense is set up, to give up easy, shorter completions to the middle of the field. That's where Larry Fitzgerald lives. Christian Kirk can't catch the ball. It's going to be all Larry Fitzgerald. And you like the Ravens to score on the Cardinals as well. So, and they're just going to be throwing 50 pass plays a game, and at least 20% of those attempts are going to go Larry Fitzgerald's way.
Yeah, sorry, you go first, Ryan.
No, you talk about the Ravens defense for a second and
Oh,
why you like this, and then I'll just briefly touch on my part.
yeah, no, because I actually agree with Lewis. Because one thing he didn't touch upon is that, yes, the Ravens have a good defense, but they're down two of their starting three cornerbacks. Jimmy Smith is out for 4 weeks.
Yep.
Tavon Young, who's our normal slot cornerback, is out for the season. So you got Carr playing on the outside, and we're playing second-year cornerback Anthony Averett in the slot. And Averett was probably the weakest of our corners in our demolition of the Dolphins. And so if Fitz is lining up in the slot predominantly against the fastest paced team in football, and I mean, I also anticipate the Cardinals to be playing from behind a lot, playing in Baltimore. There's lots and lots of opportunities for Fitz to easily blow past that number. So I actually really like it.
Nice.
And the only thing I wanted to add was, if any, like Fitzgerald achieved those sort of end results after going most of the game sort of being the secondary sort of part of the offense. They had the most success in the fourth quarter when they did start really looking to Larry, and sort of that is what actually, like, they were down for 3 quarters in that game. They didn't start playing until the fourth quarter when they sort of flipped and Larry really became the centerpiece of what they were trying to do. So surely you got a new QB and a new coach. You're going to go back and you're going to look and you're going to see that that's sort of where what the cornerstone of your success was at the end of that game. Your quarterbacks had now a game to sort of build a relationship with Larry, and he knows that he can trust him now, and that he's going to be his go-to guy. It just works.
Absolutely. I'd be really shocked if he doesn't get up over this line. But hey, that's why it's a gamble.
We did say this last week. I feel we're going to say this every week.
Single week. We're just gonna have to run the Groundhog Day intro.
Yeah, we will. It's gonna every until we have a week where we all hit on it. We're just gonna have to play that as our official. Yeah. All right, so my turn. I did a lot of research. I dug into games that I probably wouldn't watch personally to find my favourite line, and I've come out with this. Jamison Crowder, over 49.5 yards receiving against the Cleveland Browns. I think that is the biggest layup of all layups of all the lines I looked at, and I'll tell you why. So Jamison Crowder, the low over and under is based on what he did in Washington. In Washington, I mean, last year he was hurt quite a bit. And then the 2 years before that, he had guys like Kirk Cousins who trying to air the ball out a bit more, throwing. Sam Darnold is a younger quarterback. He's less experienced, which means he wants to look for his check down more than, a gunslinger like Cousins. He got 17 targets last week. 17 targets. 14 receptions he got. With that amount of volume, you'd have
8 yards. He got 14 receptions from 8 yards.
No, 99. But you'd have to. It wasn't a lot of yards per reception, but I mean, you get that much volume. Like, you'd have to have Dante Moncrief-esque hands to not blow past 49.5 yards. And in a post game interview, Jamison Crowder admit that the reason he got looked at so often is that he's the number one hot read for Darnold in this offense, and that the Bills are sending a lot of pressure. Cleveland had a pretty strong front seven, so I can imagine that they'll be dialing up quite a bit of pressure as well. And also, I think that the weakness in their secondary is in the inside. Crowder's primarily a slot receiver, and the Jets kept him on. I mean, he was on the field for, I think, 65 out of 72 snaps week one. So I don't think that playing time and snaps are going to be an issue. Even if game script leans towards the Browns, and they're favoured in this game, all that means is more throwing and more checkdowns. Like I see a lot of in Crowder, what I saw with Jarvis Landry back in Miami when Ryan Tannehill / Jay Cutler would give him longing stares as they check the ball down for 5 yards of throw. I see a lot of that in Crowder, and that bodes well for the over for 49.5 yards.
Now, I do like this in principle. Everything that's mostly works for me. He 79% of the slots. He, ran a route on 90% of Darnold's dropbacks. 17 targets is just absurd. Problem is Sam Darnold isn't playing.
Really?
Dude, he's got mono.
Good Lord.
Got mono, and he is out like indefinitely.
That is, I did not. That's insanity.
Yeah.
I still stand by what I said though, because an even less experienced quarterback's going to check down as well.
Who's going to start for them?
Who's starting for them?
Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, he's a check down king.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
I feel even better about that now.
Stumbled backwards into a solid bet. I love it.
I feel even better about it. God, mono. Jesus, that's something you don't see on the injury report all too often.
Starting NFL quarterbacks. No, it's very bizarre.
DNP mono.
Serious. Because
yeah.
Because your liver swells up apparently, and if you take contact and get hit, you can get serious internal organ damage.
It's one of those things where it's like you feel like everyone or you know someone that's like had it at some point and they never actually seem that sick or like unable to do anything. But then you hear something like this and you're like, what do you mean you can't play football? Like,
go play through it, Sam. For shame. What would Colin Coward say about your toughness and leadership?
People have been playing through concussions for years.
Antonio Brown still has one now. Yeah. But no, even better. Game script's going to favour the Jets even less with Simeon instead of Darnold at quarterback. Browns are even more likely to dial up blitzes, and they're not going to have changed the offense. So Crowder's probably still going to be the hot read. So correct. I like that even better. I may have stumbled into the quarterback thing, but I like it even better now. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's just the volume. I think Robbie Anderson will be taken primarily out of this game as well. Denzel Ward, yeah,
exactly. Especially with Denzel Ward and the change of quarterback there as well. I think Robbie Anderson's in for a very tough day. I think Le'Veon Bell and Crowder will be peppered heavily in the passing game.
Yep, agreed.
Nice
It'll
one.
Be interesting to see what the receptions line on Crowder is. If it gets released later this evening.
Yeah, if Sportsbet pull their fucking finger out and do something.
I'm so tempted to check.
I don't understand. No, I just checked. I don't understand because all of the games are at 3 a.m. Why do you only have deeper stats for one of them?
Yeah, look, I'm going to say a gripe with Sportsbet right now. Ryan and I were really liking Austin Eckler's receiving yards against the Detroit Lions. Not receiving yards, sorry. Receptions.
Receptions.
Didn't come out with it. He's at one of the premier pass-catching backs in the league. Pull your finger out, Sportsbet.
They don't want to put up nice, easy, juicy lines. Well, this is why with player props, though, Vegas only releases them like 24 hours before because there's really...
I mean, 24 hours would be nice though, right? We would have had all that.
24 hours would be a pipe dream. I mean, us degenerates want to bet, God damn it. Just take my money, sports better. I'll go to bed easy.
Unbelievable. But we'll hopefully someone finds a line on Eckler before the night is up.
Yeah, just know that if it comes out between now and the start of the game, whatever the line is, Ryan and I like the over.
Not true. Keep it under 5 and I'll be happy, please.
like true degenerates, you will bet the over in the New Orleans Saints Rams game. If anyone is a coward and bets the under in that game, I don't want to know you. We're betting
the under in that game.
20 to 17. New Orleans get screwed over in the last 2 minutes again, and the city burns.
Then they have a big cry and put up some billboards and dress as referees in the crowd again.
They're probably going to be dressed as referees this time anyway.
Let it go.
No, I feel you couldn't let that go, surely. That'd be with you for so long.
Yeah, it would. The refs just had a big game, but they had a chance to win it in overtime, and Noodle Arm Breeze blew it. So,
well, don't say Noodle Arm Breeze. We've got a lot of Saints fans that I know watch us. That's sacrilegious.
Come at me. Drew Brees is a system QB. What up?
Not Tom Brady though.
Only jokes. Just jokes. Saints fans, don't start a holy war
Don't
again.
at me.
All right, lads. This was fun, and we'll check in next week and see how we did. So let's quick recap. Ryan, you've got
John Brown over 53.5 yards, over 3.5 receptions. Take your pick.
Love it. I have Larry Fitzgerald over 54.5 yards receiving. And Luca,
I have Jamison Crowder over 49.5 yards receiving.
just especially knowing that Sam Darnold has mono.
Doubly with mono. Doubly.
Double units on that.
Simeon, I have faith in you checking down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, fellas, this is fun. Talk soon.
Thanks, boys.
See ya.